This is the Dynasty Roundtable podcast, and tonight it's just Matt and I going solo, giving you guys a 3 round Superflex tight end premium PPR rookie mock draft with landing spots from Cody Carpentier's latest rookie mock draft that you can find over at Roster Watch. But Matt Babich, the king of Dynasty Soul, how are you doing tonight? How's it going?
We are tired tonight, but that's okay. It just means that we have a lot more stuff to go through. There's actual information that we have to be parsing through, mock drafts we have to look at, buzz we have to be caught up with. It's also March, so March Madness is starting up this week. So there's a lot going on. So we're tired, but it's hectic sports world tired, which is always the best kind of tired.
Yeah. Um, and I agree. I mean, in a way, free agency just wrapped up. Um, so there's some, like Justin Fields, Devontae Adams, some clear winners. The Seahawks apparently are going to use two wide receivers in Cooper Cup and Jackson Smith and Jigba. So we'll see how that experiment goes. So free agency feels like it's dying down and March Madness is picking up. So we're in a weird content sphere. So we just thought, why not a rookie mock draft? I mean, these are fun. We enjoyed doing them. We have some landing spots. And I took the number one pick. So I'm not going to, I mean, this has been our guy the whole time, Ashton Genty. So I do admit it's closer than it once was. And Omarion Hampton, because of the combine, because of what he did in college, has narrowed the gap, but it's still Ashton Genty. I'm probably putting the 101 on the block to see if I can move down a spot or two, or maybe to the mid first round, somewhere in there. I would be more than open to do that, but if I have the 101, I'm still taking Ashton Genty because he, in this scenario, he goes to the Dallas Cowboys, and I think that's one of those landing spots that's just a home run.
Yeah, absolutely. And the gap is tightening. I've seen people even now like they start to flip flop and say, Cam Ward, Shadur Sanders start to, belong in this, group of four up here in super flex. And I'm not buying it. That wasn't most people's stances 3 months ago. So it doesn't really make sense as to why that would be the stance now or why that would change. It's still a pretty gross group of quarterbacks, all things considered. And in many shows, we have gone over the reasons why. I'm sure we'll probably even continue to expand upon that. But Marion Hampton at number two is going to be my pick here. So Player Profiler released their comps, and Omarion Hampton was comped out to Jonathan Taylor based on his height, weight, athleticism, college metrics, and I'm not one to identify comps based on film and how they run, but analytically, you could see how those dots are connected when you look at their profiles. And I think what it matters more than just like player A is comp to Jonathan Taylor, who is a good fantasy football running back. I think it's like, look, it's an example of like, this is the archetype that Hampton is based off of his level of competition, his production, his athletic profile, his size. And this is what that has mapped to in NFL production. So when our eyes see bell cow potential, extreme talent with Omarion Hampton, and we see that comp made to Jonathan Taylor, it makes a lot of sense. And that's where these flags start raising, where it's like, Judkins, Caleb Johnson, these are Henderson, these are all great backs, but it's almost, and you can argue that they're all in one tier. I think that's fine. I currently view Genty and Hampton as like the tier one guys. I view them as slightly more locked and loaded than the rest of them. So I think Omarion Hampton, this 1-2 combination for me will not change. It does not matter on draft position. It almost doesn't matter. Obviously,
Yeah.
crazy things can happen, but in all likelihood, this is going to be a 1-2.
Yeah, and he goes to the Steelers in round one. That's
Great fit.
perfect. Perfect fit for a running back like Omarion Hampton. And, I alluded to it. I mean, Hampton, everything that he's done so far in the process has just skyrocketed his value that was already really high in the dynasty community. So yeah, I think that is the pick at 102. I mean, Cam Ward does go to the Titans with the first pick, and then Sanders goes to the Giants with the second pick. So you have quarterbacks in a super flex league. But I, man, we were talking about it with John Lobb. It would be really tough for me to take those quarterbacks over these elite running backs in this class
Mm-hmm.
just because of how I feel about said quarterbacks and said running backs. I'm down on the quarterbacks. I'm very high on the running backs. And now, like at the third pick, I feel like the third pick up until now, up until we got these landing spots, has been, I don't want to say easy, but fairly straightforward. But the monkey or the wrench in the, I don't even know what I'm trying to say. The wrench in the machine is Trevion Henderson going to the Broncos in the first round. Round 1, pick 20 in a Sean Payton offense with Bo Nix. That seems to be one of the best landing spots you could possibly have at running back. You also have Travis Hunter going to the Patriots. And if he goes to the Patriots with Christian Gonzalez there, you would think, maybe he's used more as a wide receiver than a cornerback, or at least maybe he gets more wide receiver snaps than we might think. So I honestly, I'm torn in several different directions here, but I think I'm going to take Trevion Henderson because I'm all in on Trevion Henderson. And I honestly wasn't sure what I was going to do until, a couple seconds ago because, we just got this, or we just looked at this list together. I didn't want to give myself like a competitive advantage because Matt was rolling in after work, but I'm going to stick to my guns here and say that the running backs, even though this is a super flex and I'm probably stupid for not taking the quarterbacks, and I know somebody's going to shout at me in the chat because there's
Stick to your
quarterbacks on the
guns.
board in super flex. I don't care. Trevion Henderson's tape is unbelievable, and this fit in the first round is unbelievable. And these quarterbacks, they're just not that good. They're not good. Like Cam
It's
Ward
super
is
flex.
okay.
Kenny Pickett was a
Cam
first
Ward
round
is
pick.
Cam Ward is okay. Shador Sanders is not that good. And I'm frankly shocked that Cody doesn't have Jackson Dart going in the first 3 rounds. He doesn't have him going in the first 4 rounds, I don't think, because he dropped a 4-round rookie mock draft, which by the way, nobody is doing right now. Nobody is dropping a rookie 4-round mock draft in the middle of March, over a month to go to the NFL draft. So go check that out. But I say all that to say, Trevion Henderson, I'm sticking to my guns. He's my pick here at number 3.
Yeah, for me at the 4, essentially just who you didn't take there. I'm going to take Quinton Judkins. Raiders is a good spot there in the second round. Clearly wide open opportunity. There's not a plethora of wide receiver. It doesn't seem like this Raiders offense is going to be somewhat an offense that's so pass heavy and also down significantly in all these games to where Judkins just isn't going to have the opportunity. So I do like the fit there in an offense that's going to have to be balanced. A player in Judkins that has pass pro tendencies and abilities, he can be out there all the time. There's really no other back of consequence like Alexander Madison, Amir Abdullah, Zamir White. This is just disgusting. At least like even with Henderson, like at least Jaleel McLaughlin, Audric Estima, like at least there's something there that may be positive. And in Vegas, there is just nothing. So Judkins is a guy who will make you miss in the phone booth. 94th percentile burst score. You see, while he didn't do the 3-cone, you could see that agility in the film. It really pops out. His speed, his production, even given the Ole Miss transfer into a backfield with Trevion Henderson, is very positive. So I will take Quinton Judkins.
And I won't waste any time. This would be where I would feel comfortable taking a quarterback in Cam Ward. Now that all of my perceived elite running backs, and I get it, Caleb Johnson is sitting there in the second round, Tyler Warren. So, I'm sure somebody's going to be yelling about Tyler Warren in a tight end premium, or maybe even Travis Hunter, given his situation. But I just think Cam Ward, number 1 overall pick to the Titans, which we've discussed, is a low key decent landing spot with an offensive head coach. You have Calvin Ridley there. They do take Emeka Egbuka in the second round to help assure that wide receiver room even more. So I like this, and I'm just gonna ship it right back to you
Yeah,
for pick number 6.
this is interesting from a draft perspective because we start getting into landing spots that I don't love. And so this is by no means a comment on Cody's mock draft. He's very tapped in, and what we realize throughout this draft process a lot of times is these landing spots aren't going to be picture perfect. And a guy like Ted McMillan might find himself in Detroit staring down the barrel of an offense with Sam Laporta, Amon-Ra St. Brown, Jahmyr Gibbs, and even Jameson Williams. That's a lot of competition there. And then you have Tyler Warren, who's, the tight end premium league. He's on the Jets. Their quarterback is Justin Fields. They draft Jalen Milroe in the third round. Like, that is not a great situation I would want to take a tight end with the sixth overall pick in the draft. It's just it's gross right now. But what sticks out as somebody who I think has the most guaranteed opportunities given these landing spots is Caleb Johnson. Round 2 for the Chicago Bears. I would have taken Cam Ward if you would have let him slide. But I do not like the guaranteed target share or the quality target share for Tyler Warren projected in the Jets. Maybe I'm being a little too short-sighted there with Justin Fields and Jalen Milroe, but to me that screams I might be waiting 3 years for a quarterback to come in. And that is, we've seen it with Garrett Wilson. That is just the definition of a stale asset in Dynasty, and that's the opposite of what I want. Especially as a young rebuilding team, I want assets that are valuable. So I will go with Caleb Johnson here, who has plenty of skills to be a top running back in terms of fantasy if he's given the opportunity. I think there are some downsides to his profile, which we have discussed, that could keep him off of the field, but put him in Chicago. Is there a back of significance that would be that pass blocker? And you say, okay, Roshan Johnson, maybe DeAndre Swift. It's like, okay, he's probably not losing significant opportunities in that event because Ben Johnson's going to sit there and be like, do I really want to put Roshan Johnson on the field? He's probably not going to unless he absolutely has to. So for the negatives that Johnson has in his profile, I really like some of those being maybe silenced a little bit or suppressed a little bit with the potential opportunity that could come at Ben Johnson's offense.
Yeah, and I'm just gonna say this: I don't know if Ben Johnson, just historically, like looking at running backs that he's liked and he doesn't like. I mean, we know that DeAndre Swift was on the Lions when they basically traded him for a pick swap on draft night. That was 2 years ago when the draft was in Kansas City. So we know that at least, and I'm sure he was involved in, saying like, DeAndre Swift, do we really like this guy? As the offensive coordinator. So he was involved. He was on a team that traded away DeAndre Swift. And I don't know about you, but Roshan Johnson just doesn't feel like the Ben Johnson type running back. And he's had a lot of opportunities. I know there have been injuries, but if push comes to shove, if you're asking me, Seth, which one of these Bears running backs do you like going forward? I don't think I like any of them. Like, it wouldn't shock me if this Bears running back room is it's a complete makeover. I mean, we've already seen what they've done on the offensive line. So it wouldn't shock me if they take a running back in round 2, if they take a running back in round 4, and they just say, now we've got our duo. See ya, DeAndre Swift. See ya, Roshan. Maybe Roshan can be the RB3. I don't know. But like, I don't think the Bears are happy with their running back room at all, but maybe I'm wrong. Pick 7, so it's back to me. I think I will take Tyler Warren in a tight end premium. I don't necessarily love the landing spot, but short term with Justin Fields, I mean, it's okay. I mean, I think Tyler Warren's a really good player. I think he's going to get on the field quite a bit, and the target competition. I mean, you start to look at it; it's really just Garrett Wilson and Tyler Warren in this situation. And I would have to imagine the target share would be there for him. Now, the targets, and we talked about this, or I talked about this with Garrett Wilson. I can't remember who I was talking to about it. Can't remember if I was in a podcast. This is the kind of headspace that I'm in this time of year. I'm being pulled in 1,000 different directions, but the targets are likely going to go down because if you look at Justin Fields, I don't think he's ever attempted over 370 pass attempts in a single season. I'm going off the top of my head, but it's a low number. So the targets are going to go down, the target share is going to go up. So those things probably going to even out. But this what I'm saying is Tyler Warren is probably right off the bat 90 targets ish, maybe 100. It's nothing. It's not going to be anything crazy, but in a tight end premium, top 10 draft capital, good player, good film. This is I'm more than comfortable taking him here. So I'll throw it to you.
One's really tough for me. So Warren would have been my pick there if I were to be back up at 7. It was split between him and Caleb Johnson there. And now it's tough because I feel like a quarterback here is deserving based on his situation. Shador in New York, like the Giants are most likely going to draft another wide receiver at some point in this draft. I would really love if they drafted like Ty Felton. So you have Neighbors and Felton with Wandale working the middle. Try and get Theo Johnson acclimated going into year 2, get some work out of him. We see Tootin there on the Giants in round 3, along with Tyrone Tracy. So that's not a bad offense. It's certainly a much better offense to step into than Cam Ward. But along with Cam Ward is Emeka Egbuka, which could be a really solid pairing there in Tennessee. I'm going to stick with my guns on this quarterback class, and I'm going to go with Emeka Egbuka, who would be my wide receiver
Wow.
1. Given
Yeah.
let's say, let's change the world. Travis Hunter in New England is a cornerback. Based on with Jonathan Jones leaving, I'm as a Patriots fan, he's a primary cornerback if New England selects him. I will put money down on it. It just makes the most sense if you saw what happened with free agency and that roster. Travis Hunter in New England is a cornerback primarily, especially if they draft Trey Harris in the 3rd round, like this mock draft shows. That's even a bigger signal. Jonathan Jones was our number 2 cornerback, Christian Gonzalez being the number 1. Fundamentally, the New England, the Patriot way is a 2 cornerback system. I know I'm talking a little bit too much about Travis Hunter right now, but with Mike Vrabel at coach, defensively centered, losing that second cornerback, I have a feeling, a strong feeling, the Patriots would prefer him at cornerback just based on the whole Patriot way. So Egbuka paired up with Cam Ward, he's basically got maybe 1 year of Calvin Ridley being the target share leader before that job is Egbuka's. And I've said it again. I've said it once. I've said it multiple times. Egbuka has a more robust NFL profile than Luther Burden. That is just a fact. I'm sorry if you feel otherwise. I know Burden has incredible yak ability. There are more holes in his profile than Egbuka's, and just being able to be a true power slot, help in the run game, helps with that dynamism, especially with their backfield in Tennessee. I think Egbuka is such a great fit schematically for this Brian Callahan offense. And Cam Ward, that rookie connection with Egbuka, somebody who is accurate, capable of being calm, stepping up in the pocket and delivering to his open receiver. Egbuka is going to be his safety blanket. He's going to be the guy that's always open. So it might be a hot take at this point in the cycle, even given these landing spots to take Egbuka there, but that's what I want to go with.
Yeah. I mean, I can't really fault you for it. I mean, it's a similar. I mean, Derek Carr and whatever Tennessee's going to do. Well, I guess we know Cam Ward in this situation. So, I mean, that feels like a similar quarterback, similar
Well,
situations,
Shaheed is like Luther Burden right now.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
what gets me with Luther Burden in this landing spot is I think Shaheed is the real deal. So, I mean, you're talking about, I have a question as to whether Luther Burden and the Saints can crack 20% target share in the first 3 years. That's not good.
Yeah. I mean, there's so many unknowns with the Saints. Like
Fair.
they've got a new offensive coordinator. Shaheed's coming off of an injury. This pick would likely signal that, and it's the Saints. The Saints are weird. I don't know quite what to make of the Saints sometimes. Like I was a big Chris Olave fan, and so far Olave's been for fantasy. Shaheed was out producing him last year, to your point, until Shaheed was injured or got injured. So I feel as though you're sticking to your guns, and I respect that. Um, and I think that's I think that's good. I will pick 9. I mean, there's so many options here for me to go, but I have to like this Tet McMillan with Detroit landing spot is really throwing me off here. It's really throwing
It's
me off my
terrible.
game. It's horrible. What come on, Cody? Like why? I mean, would this just be a signal that Jamison Williams, like they're not happy with Jamison Williams or for whatever reason? I don't know. Um but I mean that ultimately that becomes one of the most exciting trios of wide receivers. I mean, Tet McMillan, Jameson Williams, Amon-Ra St. Brown, holy cow, with Sam Laporta. I mean, wow. But I think this pick is probably, between Sanders and one of the wide and probably like one of the wide receivers in round 1. But I think I'm just going to be boring and go Shedeur Sanders as much as I don't I do not love this landing spot for him whatsoever. You have a coach that's a lame duck in a division with the Eagles and the Commanders who are I mean, gosh. I mean, you talk about a tough division. I know the Cowboys are probably going to have a down year, but I would still say the Giants are the worst team in that division. And Sanders takes a lot of sacks, similar to Caleb Williams. He's not going to be ready right away. They'd be wise to let him sit. They probably won't if they're taking him at pick 2. I get it. He has Malik Neighbors. They can make some more moves to add to that receiver core. They can. There's a lot to be done between now and the start of the NFL season. But man, I think Sanders has a lot of holes in his game as a prospect. And even though he has Malik Neighbors, I don't love this, so I'm making this pick begrudgingly. But I think it's the value pick at this stage of the game because of the draft capital and because of the potential opportunity. But I'll admit, I don't love it.
It is. You're making me look bad on paper by taking both of the quarterbacks here in Superflex as I continue to avoid them. I was going to go back to Shador at the 10 here if he made it back. But even with all of the negatives we just went over with Ted McMillan, I still think this is a proper spot for him to go given the destination, because what I do think it does scream is that Detroit has no interest in funneling their offense through Sam Laporta anymore, and they need another receiver to be able to enhance their game and take it to the next level. Because as good as Detroit has been, it's been very clear that they still don't have what it takes to get over that hump and push it to the next level. Is it the quarterback? Was it the defensive injuries? I don't know. But if this pick is made, it's made with intention. And I fully believe that Ted McMillan has the skill set to succeed in Detroit if he is that true, 1B to Amon-Ra St. Brown. And hey, for all we know, maybe it's bad for Amon-Ra St. Brown. Maybe they don't want to funnel him 12 targets a game and have them and have Detroit go into a game saying, if we can shut down Amon-Ra St. Brown, we shut down their pass game. And maybe they don't want to be that one-dimensional in the pass game anymore. So I do think there are some positives that could be taken away from this landing spot from Tech McMillan. So I will place him there.
Yeah, and now you've left me with a decision, basically landing spot versus prospect. I one of these prospects I like better than the other, but the other one has a better landing spot. And I think I have to stick to my guns on my prospect evaluation. I know that I said first round player last when I was talking about Sanders or one of the first round wide receivers, one of those being Tet McMillan, and it was probably between Tet McMillan and Sanders at that pick. But I think Luther Burden with the Saints, I just think that this is the right time to take him because it's the ultimate swing for the fences pick. And if you're at pick 11, You were in the championship game last year. This is exactly how you sustain your roster long term. You take the highest potential upside pick in a landing spot that, it's not the first round, but it's early second round with the Saints. And, Shaheed's coming off of an injury. There's a new offensive coordinator in town, so there's a lot of uncertainty. Derek Carr, is he going to be with the team long term or not? What are their long term plans there? But this is a bet on the talent because I do believe that it's there. I know he had a down year this year with Missouri. I don't think a lot of that was his fault. And I get it. He's more of a slot guy. He played a lot more slot, so he's more of a Jalen Waddle type wide receiver. But I think the talent is off the charts. And if this hits, it could really hit. And I love taking those kinds of swings late in the first round. So I'll throw it to you and we'll round out the first round with the 112 here.
Maybe this was the landing spot you were referring to, but I think Matthew Golden ends up being a really nice compliment to Nico Collins. I
Yeah.
think let me be clear. I think you made the right call there. If push came to shove, I would have been, if you would have went Loveland there for some reason, I would have picked Burden over Golden as well. So applause to you for sticking to your guns there. But I think Golden would be a very nice compliment to CJ Stroud or to Nico Collins and be benefited, from CJ Stroud in this passing game. Who they had a down year last year, and I love when I see a player like Stroud have a season like this and then go down to a season like this. I say, okay, we can probably expect somewhere in the middle here. I don't expect Houston to be as anemic as they were last year. And Golden and his speed is somebody who could really take the top off of defenses and keep defenses honest. Because if you want to double Nico Collins, I guarantee you they're going to find a way to get Matthew Golden open all over the field. So he's going to help defenses be honest, play more of that Tank Dell role, except he is a much more well-rounded and complete player than Tank Dell. I'm sorry to say, but there's a large difference between Matthew Golden, who stands at 5'11", 191, running a 4.29, than Tank Dell, who is, I don't know the actual numbers right in front of me, but I know he's about 165 pounds, running about a 4.49. So 5'8", 165 pounds, 4.49.
Yeah.
Two completely different players, man, right there. That is two completely different players. So I really like the way Golden would fit in Texas, in Texas with the Texans, and could be a top 34, top 36, wide receiver 3 right off the bat in his rookie year.
Yeah. Yeah, that's exactly who I was torn between, and I think that's the right pick at the 112. I think, CJ Stroud's one of these quarterbacks. We're not huge fans of him long term in Dynasty, especially where he's at in keep trade cut right now, and we've talked about that, but he's a good quarterback for a wide receiver like Matthew Golden and like Nico Collins. I mean, he's going to be able to distribute the ball around the field, so I think that's a perfect fit. Love that landing spot. And now, again, we have to ask ourselves, when's the right time to pull the trigger on Travis Hunter? And I think now's the time. Early second round, going to the Patriots in the top 5. You said it. You're a Patriots fan, so you're probably more plugged in than I am. But Travis Hunter probably going to play more defense than offense. So this is an experiment, and we haven't seen it for a while. So we're going to see how it goes, but I'm betting on the talent because I still contend that if Travis Hunter said tomorrow, 100%, I'm a wide receiver, whatever team that drafts me I want to be a wide receiver, and they're going to know that when they draft me, he would not only be the wide receiver 1 in this class, but I think he would be hands down the 102 and in contention. It would be 50-50 between him and Genty at the 101. That's just that's how good I think Travis Hunter is. And so getting him at the 201 or at the back half of the first round, if he gets top 5 draft capital, is absolutely perfect.
Yeah, agreed. And to be fair, to play devil's advocate, the report out of New England right now is that they view him as both the top cornerback and the top wide receiver. So there's still a lot of credibility if someone wants to have the opposite viewpoint where they turn him into a receiver because that's a big, desperate need for them. I won't sit there and argue with it. It's for the purposes of a mock draft. I'm just going to go with my with my fan gut that says Vrabel would try and use him primarily as a cornerback. I do think, though, and this may be worse for fantasy, I don't know, that New England is the team that would give him the probability of him playing both ways in a close to 50-50 aspect is greatest in New England than anywhere else, based on what I've heard about how they are all in on Travis Hunter as a prospect. So if there's a team that's going to figure out a way to work him up to a certain amount of snaps on offense and defense, that's a significant number, it's going to be New England. I agree that this is the proper place to pick him. And since I can't do it now, in a tight end premium, maybe it's still a little early, but I'm going to go with Colston Loveland. I love this landing spot in Los Angeles, a clear, dedicated to not necessarily being super pass heavy, but being a very efficient, faster paced offense that likes to move through the air. They lose Cooper Kupp. They've never, we've seen Stafford try and work with his tight end. You know, Higbee was the guy for a really long time. And we thought Colby Parkinson had some fantasy relevance at some point or another. They haven't really found a guy that they truly love in that role. So if they go out and grab Colston Loveland in the first round, that's a huge screaming endorsement. And we take a look at the projected pass volume along with, you know, the number of targets that are currently going around in that offense minus Cooper Kupp. There's a lot of opportunity to be had there. And we look at landing spots, we look at prospect profiles, especially if we're going to say here right now that Jackson Dart was not a pick in the first 3 rounds, then I'm comfortable here with next man up, Colston Loveland and a tight end premium.
Yeah, I think that's the pick to make. And now at the 203, this becomes interesting because a lot of these running backs that we like, Brashard Smith did not get taken in, day 2. Devin Neal, nowhere to be found. And so Dylan Sampson goes to the Saints in round 3. Ollie Gordon to the Chiefs in round 3. Does he become the starter right away? I don't know. Then you have some of these wide receivers. I mean, the cop-out pick potentially is Jalen Noel or Noel, however you say that. But F it, man. I think there's one landing spot on this board that makes all the sense in the world, and I think it's a perfect pairing of prospect and quarterback. And that's Alec Ayumanor, man. I'm going to stick to my guns and say that I love this landing spot. I love this prospect, and this would signal to me in an offense that has Khalil Shakir and Dalton Kincaid and James Cook. They need a wide receiver like Alec Ayumanor on the outside. This is what they need. And if you're telling me that Josh Allen is not going to be scrambling around, throwing deep balls up for Alec Ayumanor, if this is the pick in round 2, if they make this kind of investment in him, to me, this is exactly where he belongs to be taken. Like early round 2, good luck getting him late round 2, like maybe middle of round 2, but this is potentially a home run pick here with this kind of connection. I mean, this feels perfect to me. But again, this is but for myself, this is a perfect marriage of prospect evaluation and situation. So that's the pick. Oh, you're muted.
Every time. I love the love for Alec right after our show with John Lobb when I threw him out there as one of my favorite prospects, was heavily considering him at that pick. So I appreciate you making that decision a little bit easier for me, because I'm going to go with Trey Harris, who was picked a little bit later, but picked in round 3. And you could put Travis Hunter as a receiver even full time, and there's still so much room for a guy like Trey Harris to eat in this offense. So I like even the worst case scenario for Trey Harris being the 1B or fighting to be the 1B in this offense. And the beauty about being with another rookie, I love Travis Hunter to the moon and back. There's still a chance that Trey Harris develops a connection with Drake May quicker and ends up being the 1A in that offense with Travis Hunter being a full-time receiver. Again, maybe like a 10% probability outcome, but it's in there. And Trey Harris would easily soak up 20% of these targets in year one for New England, paired with Drake May, who we already know is a superior talent there at quarterback, or at least an above average talent at quarterback. So the draft is really starting to open up, especially with these landing spots. Especially with the running backs kind of getting some ugly landing spots, but Ellick and Trey Harris have two really good landing spots there.
Yeah, and we're getting to the point too where, I mean, there's some unknown in doing it, but like if you looked at just some of these other landing spots, like some of the round 3 wide receivers, like there's one that's really polarized. Like Isaiah Bond of the Cowboys probably shoots him up some people's draft boards. Ollie Gordon, a running back to the Chiefs. I mean, I honestly don't know what that means. And I feel that feels like a trap to me. It feels like somebody would overdraft him because I don't know if that's a perfect marriage, but whatever. I mean, other people might feel differently. But you look at some of the other wide receivers like Jalen Royals to the Broncos, Jack Besh to the Packers. Trey Harris is already off the board. These are landing spots that you would think would be good, but all of a sudden, I think those wide receivers have the potential to get lost in those situations. And then, like you said, the running backs just devastating. But I think I'm going to stick to my guns and stick with a wide receiver that I really like. And I think this situation is good because I think Michael Penix is one of those quarterbacks that he's in here. Good. Is one of these quarterbacks that I think is going to be good for fantasy. So Jalen Noel getting round 2 draft capital, like early round 2 draft capital or mid round 2 draft capital to a situation that we like. And you might say, well, what about the target competition might be a bit tough at first. Oh, well, okay. You start to look around. Drake London, good, but Kyle Pitts has been a disappointment. And then outside of Drake London, who do they have? Yes, and the answer is they're not. I mean, Jalen Noel would come in and likely be the wide receiver 2 right off the jump. So I like that pick here, and I will throw it to you for the 206.
Starting to get a little bit tougher here, but I'm going to go with a running back who I really like. Don't love the landing spot, but post year 1 could have a lot of promise, and that's Dylan Sampson. So landing with the Saints, we know Alvin Kamara is there right now, and he has a year left. He basically has a year left as a Saint. Whether or not he re-signs with the team obviously remains to be seen. But if they're taking Dylan Sampson in the 3rd round, especially, basically saying we don't want to give Kendre Miller another shot, he's dust. He's done. We're bringing in Sampson as our potential replacement to Kamara. And then the front office has 2 decisions to make. We can either run Kamara down as much as we possibly can because this is his last year here, or we stink. Let's get Dylan Sampson in once he earns those touches and start working towards the future. And let's see what we have in Dylan Sampson so we don't, hide him away for a year. We don't draft a running back next year. And then lo and behold, we have another Kendre Miller and Dylan Sampson didn't work. So I have a feeling that Kellen Moore is going to get him involved early on. Not going to be a high touch guy in year 1. So that's why it's a 2-6. I'm even a little hesitant right here. But they drafted Luther Burden, Kellen Moore. If they go running back again in the next round, they are clearly building a new offense for Kellen Moore in this new era in New Orleans. They have talent at wide receiver. Not as bad of an O-line as some of these other teams that drafted some of these running backs. Again, I'm not, as in on Ollie Gordon at this landing spot as you are, so I'm not at him yet. So I think Dylan Sampson, someone who has a lot of pure runner capabilities and the ability to catch balls out of the backfield, could be a nice compliment here. We're starting to get a little bit tougher in terms of how these landing spots shook out, and then we have guys that are way lower on our prospect profiles that have some good landing spots than guys that are way up here like Dylan Sampson that get stuck in this weird world. But I'm going to trust the talent. Dylan Sampson is still high enough for me where I'm willing to just trust the talent and let it fly.
Yeah, and I'm gonna trust. I do. I like Ollie Gordon. I don't love Ollie Gordon, but I think now's the time to take him
Damn, come
with the
on,
Chief,
man.
with the
One pick. I
Chiefs.
always try and push these guys one more pick, and then you
Yeah,
come and take them in.
with the Chiefs, and it was between him and another running back. But I think, and likely in this scenario, Ollie Gordon would have been drafted already, if I had to guess. I bet somebody would have just been in love with the landing spot. But I remind you, I believe they signed Elijah Mitchell, and Isaiah Pacheco is still there. And like this would just be weird. This would just be a weird pick for the Chiefs to make, in my opinion. I think if we were sitting here on day 2 of the draft and Ollie Gordon's name was announced to the Chiefs, I think maybe, I don't know. Let us know in the comments, how would you feel? It just doesn't feel like a Chiefs natural fit. I feel like they'd be much more inclined to take a Bashul Tutin who can just fly and break open a defense with one cut here and then boom, he's gone. Um, which, by the way, Bashul Tutin to the Giants is also brutal, but I digress. So I'll throw it to you at the 208 here.
I'll go with the last second round pick here on our mock draft board, and I'll take Jaden Higgins purely because well, A, I like his prospect profile, but B, he's really the only boundary player we have in Seattle
Mm-hmm.
right now. And yes, Jackson Smith and Jigba can play outside. Yes, Cooper Cup can play outside. But when push comes to shove, if you're rolling out Cup and JSN in two receiver sets, that's generally not the way the average NFL organization wants to run their offense. So you get a guy like Jaden Higgins that can play the boundary. And now all of a sudden you're actually cooking with an offense that we can pass off as it's an NFL offense. You mentioned it at the top of the show, what they're doing here. You got a guy with 94th percentile speed at 6'4", 214. He has great body control. He's good in contested catch situations. I do worry about his ability to separate, but you get a guy that broke out early at Iowa State, has a high level target share and dominator rating. He has the college production metrics. He has the size. He has the speed. All he needs really is the opportunity. Like, as even Keon Coleman, was valuable. And if he can be Keon Coleman and have that kind of outlook, I think he's a much better player than Keon Coleman. So if he can have that kind of role in year one that Coleman had, I think he's going to actually take advantage of it.
Yeah, I like Higgins there for sure. And I think with this next pick, I'm going to take a running back and I'll take the landing spot in RJ Harvey. I won't let RJ Harvey fall any farther um, because, right, like, and, I could be wrong here. I don't know if Jerome Ford is going to be the guy in Cleveland, but it sure looks like, I mean, and I'm not, I don't know. I'm pulling up the depth chart right now just to make sure that I'm not missing anything.
You're
But
not.
yeah,
Jerome
yeah,
Ford,
Jerome
Nick
Ford,
Chubb.
Pierre Strong, John Kelly Jr. I mean, I would have to
That's
think
crazy.
that it would at least be a 50-50 split between Jerome Ford and RJ Harvey right off the jump. I will say that this is, he's going to get opportunities right away. And that combined with his NFL combine, which I think is going to propel him up some teams' draft boards with the 4.40. I think there's enough here to take him, and I think he could pop off in year one, given the situation, and likely the team's not going to be very good. And in fantasy, when the team's not very good, and there's the likelihood for just a ton of points, especially if the defense isn't good. We learned that from the Bengals last year, which, by the way, it looks like they're trying to do a repeat of last year, signing both wide receivers to mega contracts, which we didn't talk about at the start of the show. But anyway, that's neither here nor there. But I'll throw it to you at the 2-10 as
Can I
we're getting
pretend that
close
Jackson
to.
Dart went to the Saints in round 3 instead of Tyler Shug? Please.
Yeah, okay, fine.
I
I don't
just
I don't care. That, like, I'm sorry, Cody. Like, what world are you living in if you're watching this? Like, Tyler Shook looks like a good NFL quarterback. he's not going to be a good NFL quarterback. Jackson Dart at least would have some upside. I'm telling you this right now. If Jackson Dart somehow was available for the Bears to take in round 3 or round 4, I might be on board with that, even though we have Caleb Williams, and that might come as a shock to some people, but that's the kind of quarterback prospect that I think he is. And we all know, I mean, you remember Kirk Cousins, RG3? I mean, crazy things happen in the NFL, injuries happen. And at some point, what are we doing with Kyle? Like, and I don't even really hate Kyle McCord all that much, but really the Rams, they take Kyle McCord over Jackson Dart. The Jets take Jalen Milroe over Jackson Dart. I don't get it, but yeah,
Yeah, I'm gonna pretend that I'm gonna pretend Dart is a round 3 pick to some team. I don't even care who it is. I think really if you replace him with any of those quarterbacks, he's going before a lot of these guys in round 2, probably like around 2-5, if I were to guess,
Mm-hmm.
maybe even a little bit earlier, depending on your draft. But Dart really, he showed a lot. He's got it. He's got a deep ball. He's got arm strength. He's got some zip on the ball. And you look at his college efficiency and production metrics, like those, don't necessarily, they fill you up. You're not left with more to be desired when you look at Dart's profile on the
Oh,
surface.
you know
Uh,
what?
what?
I completely messed up this mock draft because Jackson Dart, and I owe Cody an apology. Uh, First pick of round 2 to the
Round
Cleveland
2.
Browns. I totally missed it. So
I was gonna say, like, I was looking through this. I was like, man, they took R.J. Harvey, but none of the like, not even a quarterback here.
yeah.
Okay, so
So
that makes way more sense. So like, let's
yeah,
just
I got lost in the putting 1,000 names on this board here. So anyway,
no worries. But
Matt
anyway,
Babbage
I
is
mean,
getting a steal,
I
and
got the
Cody,
steal of the
I
draft. I don't
apologize.
even really have to defend
Yeah.
Dart at the 210 to Cleveland anymore. So second round, Cleveland
Mhm.
Browns, Jackson Dart at the 210. Probably would have been like 2.5. I would have taken him surely at 2.6, probably 2.4 even. If we knew that going in. So Dart worth more than the 210 at that price. That can be our analysis.
Yeah, and now I'm looking through because now I'm paranoid that I missed something else. I don't think I did. I think that was the that was the only thing I missed. And if not, we're too far down this rabbit hole anyway. But
Yeah.
let us know what you think. Like and subscribe and all that stuff. We're growing here. So we'll round out this second round, and then I think we go rapid fire for round 3, if that's
Yep.
cool with you. Um, but let me just get my bearings here. So you took Jackson Dart, the steal of the draft. And now it's interesting because all the round 2 guys are taken. We have some interesting running backs, some interesting wide receivers, some interesting tight ends um, on the board. I don't love any of these quarterbacks, to be honest with you. So you know what? I'm gonna F it. I think I'm gonna take. I'm gonna swing for the fences. This could be a miss, but Isaiah Bond, if he goes round 3 to the Cowboys, sign me up. There's a lot of upside there, so I'll throw it right back to you at the 212, and then we'll go rapid fire.
So I'm going to take somebody who isn't even on this landing spot. I'm going to be the first person to do that. And I'm going to stick with my guns on Devin Neal. I think there are some avenues for him to be a early 4th round pick and still be more valuable than some of these guys. I'm trusting my gut on what I know about him for his prospect profile. Yes, his straight line speed didn't come into where we want it to, but we know that that's not everything when it comes to running backs. His burst score was incredible, so his ability to hit the gap and explode out of it and create explosive runs is surely there. He's got a healthy height and weight, very active in the pass game. We love his patience as a runner, his patience and his vision, his decision making. You know who I think would fit really well there, and I don't necessarily think they load up this many of their picks on the offensive end, but high up in the 4th round is New England. I really love that fit there. Devin Neal going in New England, a patient runner who can play the offensive end or play the receiving end. I feel like that's a better complement than what we have now in terms of rushing and catching ability. Clearly, Stevenson and Gibson isn't our ideal combo of the future. So, I mean, and even going a little bit down the line, I guess Carolina doesn't make any sense. But yeah, I'm going to go with Devin Neal, and I still think there are plenty of ways for his draft weekend to go well and not be a day 2 pick.
All right, rapid fire is initiated, and I'm gonna go with my pick, Bashul Tutin, because I do think this guy has a lot of juice. I think he has the potential to beat out Tyrone Tracy, especially if they draft him on day 2, or at least get more touches. It could turn into a Rashad White, Bucky Irving type situation, because Bashul Tutin's good. I was watching his film today, super impressed. This dude has breakaway speed that is no joke. So Bashul Tutin for me, 302. Matt Babich,
Screw it. Let's go Jalen Royals.
nice, like it.
I
I
like the
kind of
fit
like
there in
that
Denver.
landing spot.
I like the
do
fit
too.
there in Denver.
All right, back to me. In a tight end premium, there's Mason Taylor there with the Colts. That's tempting. And there's probably somebody I'm missing, but I like Cam Scatabo too much not to let him fall. And there's players that are not on the board, and we'll see if we'll see what direction that Matt wants to go. But I'm gonna go Cam Scatabo.
I will take a running back I actually think is good, Damian Martinez.
Nice. And he did not get drafted in the first 3 rounds.
Another guy I would like New England to draft. I'd be fine with that.
Yeah, but of course that's counting on me actually getting the landing spots right and on this page on this graphic correctly, which we've already know that that's questionable. I think I will go Mason Taylor now. He aligns with the Colts. I love that landing spot. So Mason Taylor for me. I'll throw it right back to you.
Elijah Arroyo. I will go the same thesis, but a different player. And I will take the George Kittle replacement in San Francisco.
Gotcha. If I can hit buttons right, then I can get these players up here so the YouTube audience can see them. I'm gonna go the Jalen Milroe route right now because I get it. He winds up with the Jets, but it's a little bit better than I think it is on the surface for some people because I don't think Justin Fields is the long-term answer. Now, I don't know if Jalen Milroe is either, but he's at least there in a situation where he could win some time eventually. So I think it's a good dart throw in round 3. I'll throw it right back to you.
I'm going to stick going off the page just because I really don't like a lot of these prospects that have landing spots. And I'm going to take another running back that could just muck his way into a good spot, DJ Giddens. DJ probably.
Giddens. There we go. All right. I can't believe that this guy's still here, so I'm going to take your boy, Brashard Smith.
I am reading in between the lines on Cody's mock draft a little bit more than Brashard Smith with others. I don't know why. I believe in him so much, and I have this huge hole in my stomach that he's going to be like a 6th round pick or like undrafted or something, and then I just have to eat all these words.
Where did he go in this? Devin Neal does go to the 49ers in round 4, but Brashard Smith doesn't go.
I love that. I love that for Devin Neal. Oh my goodness.
I didn't put up the round 4 landing spots.
No, that's
anyway,
that part's fine.
I mean, if you're watching on YouTube, you're already like overwhelmed by this graphic on the bottom of the screen. But Matt, you are up with the 310.
Man, I in Superflex, I guess just give me Quinn Ewers.
Yeah,
I don't love it, but at the end of the 3rd round in a position you could start at next year, I feel like you might as well.
Yeah, I don't hate it. I don't love that prospect at all.
I don't either, but
I mean, it's probably smart for me to take like Kyle McCord here at the end of the round 3 or Tyler Shuck, but I just don't want to do it. But I don't know. I think probably what I'll do here is take Harold Fannin Jr. in a tight end premium to close it out, and then I'll throw it to you because the Texans. I mean, I think that's a pretty good landing spot for a tight end too. Man, the Texans getting Matthew Golden and Harold Fannin Jr. I mean, they're kind of low key heroes of this for fantasy. But I'll throw it to you to round it out.
I'll close it out with Terrence Ferguson from Oregon. Again, just a guy who I don't know if he ends up on a spot there in the 4th round, but at this point, I'm taking format driven, upside plays, and I feel like Terrence Ferguson fits that bill.
Yeah, Terrence Ferguson, you're going to like this. Round 4 to the Cincinnati Bengals.
Yeah, there we go. Run it all the way up.
Yeah. So that's going to do it for us tonight. Our 3-round Superflex rookie mock draft. I'm trying to think. Should we run through it real quick?
I got it. Ready?
All right, go for it.
I'm gonna auction this off. Ashton Genty, Omarion Hampton, Travion Henderson, Quinshon Judkins, Cam Ward, Caleb Johnson, Tyler Warren, Emeka Egbuka, Shador Sanders, Tet McMillan, Luther Burden, Matthew Golden in round 1. Travis Hunter, Colston Loveland, Alec Ayumanor, Trey Harris, Jalen Noel, Dylan Sampson, Ollie Gordon, Jaden Higgins, RJ Harvey, Jackson Dart, Isaiah Bond, Devin Neal in round 2, Bashol Tootin, Jalen Royals, Cam Scatterbo, Damian Martinez, Mason Taylor, Elijah Arroyo, Jalen Millero, DJ Giddens, Brashard Smith, Quinn Ewers, Harold Fannin, and Terrence Ferguson to round out the 3rd round.
That was well done. That was very efficient. And honestly, you did that a little quicker than I thought you would. So good job. Let us know what you think of the mock draft. Let us know what you think of my stupidity of not including Jackson Dart in the landing spots. Click like, click subscribe. Any final words for the people, Matt Babish, before we get out of here?
Emeka Egbuka is better than Luther Burden.
You heard it from him, folks. And until next time, nobody cares about Aaron Rodgers, and we will see you later. Bye-bye, everybody.